please welcome the incredible Natalie Dawson.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to do this today. I know we've been scheduling this for quite some time, and now we finally get to meet, connect, and hopefully add a lot of value.
Oh, you will. You will, because you are one of those women that just go for it, like full send, get her done. And I feel like it's refreshing in a way because it's just a gentle reminder that we can do anything. We can do anything. So I would love to know, which I'm pretty sure is a common question for you. How did you get involved with the Cardones?
Well, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I had been dating my now husband for a handful of years. We had worked together for quite some time, but he had this incredible event happen in 2016. He sold his business for 77 times earnings, $155 million. He hit every financial target that he had ever created for himself. And the next month, I had one of the most invaluable experiences that I could have had at that age, which was watching somebody hit a target and then not really be certain as to what to do next. And I always thought of myself as somebody who wanted this big career. I early on never wanted kids. I always thought of myself as like, I'm going to create a career and my career is going to be my life. And so I watched this happen for him. And a month into selling this business, he had responsibilities, but the purpose and the goal and the big think went away. And it was actually a little bit terrifying for him. And so I was early in my career at this time. I watched him do this. We started to try to understand what to do at this point, because starting from scratch from his standpoint seems scary, but I was ready to, really launch into what would be the next opportunity that was going to take the next decade plus of my career. And so while he wanted to go the traditional private equity route, we had management consulting backgrounds. It's like, what about these social media influencers? They have the audience, but many of them don't have things like leadership and operational excellence and people development programs and finance programs that these small business owners really need. And so we put together a list of these social media influencers. My husband was very against this idea at the time. He's like, we're going to be like professional business people. I'm like, okay, great. You can work those relationships. I'm going to work this social media angle and let's see where we land. And this was in 2019. So I'd put together a list of 5 different people who we were going to go and see their events. We were going to meet their audiences and see if there could be a good fit. And luckily, the 10X Growth Conference with 35,000 people in a stadium on Super Bowl Sunday was the very first event that we went to. And I could honestly tell you, going into that audience, going into that event, it felt like it was home. It was the first time where I heard somebody who was so much more successful than me talk about the fact that it's okay to be disappointed in yourself. And in a world where people are okay with participation trophies, it was such a perversive message. It was like, wait, what is he saying? And what is his wife saying about supporting your husband and that it's okay to be all in on your family? So we met them at this growth conference. We met their audience. We met so many amazing business owners and pitched them on the idea of partnering, creating a joint venture, which today is called Cardone Ventures, where we help small business owners in the 10X community with finance, operations, leadership, HR, and scaling their businesses, where Grant is now really focused on sales training, but more significantly now is the multifamily real estate investing.
Wow. Okay, so you said that you had experience in management consulting.
Mm-hmm.
And then did you go to school before that?
I don't know that I went to school for management consulting. I studied economics, so I dropped out of college. I have 1 semester left technically. I've been told I should finish, but to me, it was one of the most important decisions of my life to just like drop out, because it was what everybody wanted me to do, was stay and have a good degree. And I was like, no, I don't think that's the right thing for me. So I have 1 semester left, but I studied economics in college.
So how did you learn the leadership stuff and like the HR stuff? And like these are kind of like the things you don't think about when you're growing a business. And it's also kind of the boring stuff. How'd you learn it?
Yeah, I picked up my first business book when I was 12. So I've always been fascinated with leadership. I would always in an airport whenever there was the Harvard Business Review on some people topic, it just naturally fascinated me. I was always drawn to that type of content, but I realized how little I actually knew when I led my first team of people. I was 22 years old. I'll never forget the moment where these 3 team members were responsible to me. I was now their manager. And I had no idea what to say to them. Like everything I had read about leadership just like went out the door, because how do I have a one-on-one conversation? Do I ask them how they're doing or what's going on with their job? Say again?
Were they older than you?
Yeah, all of them were older than me.
Oh, okay. Imposter syndrome. Oh,
totally. It was all of the things. It was imposter syndrome. You know, my boss had to leave because her husband got diagnosed with terminal cancer. So she's just gone the next day. And I was working on this program at the time, and it's like, okay, great. She had a bunch of people underneath her, but these 3 people were underneath her, and they were supposed to be trained on this program that I was helping her create. So it was supposed to be this interim solution because I was the only person with the knowledge of this program. And, you know, that really did kick off my leadership career. And I got smacked in the face very quickly with the lack of real knowledge and experience. But I had read all the things. I'd probably read more leadership books than people who had been in leadership for decades, just because it was a natural interest of mine. And so that really kicked off my own real experience and furthered the interest that I had in how do you set up systems for people to where they can feel confident in the way that they lead, to where they understand what their role is as a leader, not just because they're titled as a boss or titled as a manager, but because they can really take somebody in their environment and help them achieve things that are extraordinary, despite the fact that the environment initially might be fairly ordinary, or the people themselves might be ordinary. And I think all great leaders really do know how to capture people who are ordinary. And I would say most people are. I know I'm an ordinary person, but able to achieve really extraordinary things. And if you can give people the tools to do that, businesses tend to be more successful because you have great people doing great things that can then push the business further to help solve bigger problems.
okay. So 2 things on this one. One, I often hear people say, well, if I develop them too much, what do I do if they leave? I poured all this time and resources into developing my team. What happens if they quit? What do you do? What do you say to people like that?
Ideally, you just have a big enough vision so that they see themselves inside of your vision. If you only thought about having a $3 million business or a $1 million business, of course, you're going to live in a place of scarcity, because what if somebody wants to make $1 million and you know that your business, you don't even make $1 million. But the idea would be, how do you have a vision that's big enough to say, instead of me picking the target at $1 million, I'm actually going to pick a $15 million target or a $30 million target, so that I can have a mechanism that allows people inside the business to see how big their vision can be inside of this organization through continuing to provide opportunities to them. But it's not just opportunities that sound nice. In order to hit those opportunities and to make them real, the team members have to step into that every single day. It's not once a quarter we check in and do a performance review. It's, what is the expectation of how I'm showing up every single day with every single thing I'm responsible for, and the things that I'm doing over and above the work inside, by developing myself, by reading things, by learning AI, by doing all of the things that make me ready to take on the opportunity, because right now I'm focused on how I can create real growth.
Oh my gosh. So the best leader are the ones who are developing their people. Right? And like,
So true.
maybe it should be, oh, I'm glad that you're leaving, because now you've potentially helped someone step into a version of themselves they didn't know was possible.
I never feel that way about my best people. I wish I could have that, like
Forever.
wishing you well type of thing. I do wish people well, don't get me wrong, but I want the people that I've worked with. I was responsible for hiring our team at Cardone Ventures. Today we have over 250 team members just in Cardone Ventures, and our portfolio company that I'm responsible for hiring and HR and operations and all of that for has over 120. So across the board, it's about 400 team members with our portfolio companies. And what I find is there are certain people who do get to a level of success after developing themselves where they say that they're good. But some of my first hires that I made that were hire 24, hire 36, they've moved from manager to senior manager to director to senior director to vice president to senior vice president to executive vice president inside these companies. And I don't want them going anywhere else because I want to keep pointing them to all of the problems that I know that we have today. We didn't used to have these problems, but we have these problems today. And I'm going to create a picture that's big enough and continuing to be big enough and hold myself accountable to where it wouldn't make sense for them to have to leave because we're already like, I don't think we're a family, but we're already so connected in the way that we think about problems. And there's such a high level of trust. So if they chose to leave, I would understand it, but to be honest with you, they don't leave. Those ones, they haven't left. They choose not to leave because we keep raising our game and therefore they raise their game and
That's
the
awesome.
organization wins.
You also attract a very certain type of person. But what I love about this too is that people often cap out at the capacity of which they think they can actually grow a business. And they make it about them. So it's like, I've only ever earned $1 million. So I know I can't do better than that. So that's what my business is going to be. But you bring in these people, you develop them, and they're like, well, no, I want to make $1 million in commission. So don't tell me this business is only going to make $1 million.
Right.
How do you teach and navigate, especially leaders, through that transition of like that abundance mindset? It's like they're hitting their limiting beliefs. And like people, they'll throw grenades into their businesses to cool that down because if they only think they deserve $1 million, then that's all they'll ever do is earn that. How do you help these people see past that?
You can't help somebody do something that you haven't yourself been willing to really look at in your own belief structure. And so if I was running into that with my team members, it would have to be my own self-limiting belief about what I could do. And I choose to obsess over where I'm going, of what life could like, and figure out how to hold in this balance. I want all of this and I could see making this impact. And I'm so disappointed in what I've been able to do because the potential of what my life could be is just unlimited, while also being appreciative for how far I've come and the things that have happened and the accomplishments that I've made, and really trying to figure out how to live in that balance. When you do that as a leader, you can teach other people who are working with you how to do that same thing themselves. And I do that through a process called personal, professional, and financial goal planning. Every one of my team members who reports to me and the team members that they report to and this org structure, they all have these conversations with their leaders about what are their goals. How are they achieving those goals? What are they doing right now in order to develop themselves? And when I find that somebody starts to be like good and they start to just be comfortable, I'm really hard and I'm really direct on people and saying, if you have already achieved this much, it really is a detriment to your family. It's a detriment to your coworkers. It's a detriment to the community. Is it a detriment to the government? Like, how big does it have to be a detriment to for you to say I'm good? Because people really are in a crisis today of needing competent leaders to do great things in order to help get us out of the situations that we find ourselves in, between the debt across not just the United States. I know you're from Canada. There's no shortage of leadership opportunities and massive problems with our kids, with the environment. And so if you do have capabilities, it's the most selfish thing that you can do to just say, oh, because I drive my little BMW and because my house is paid off, like, I'm good. I don't need to do anything else. Like, to me, that's offensive that people would think that they're just good with what they've created. Because if you're good with what you've created, that does actually mean you have so much more capacity to do so much more good and set real examples for other people. And there's never been a moment in history, from my standpoint, that we needed more leaders in. So I can't have people around me that are good, and I don't hire people that just want to coast. This is not just a 9 to 5 clock in, clock out type of thing. And I think real leaders and people who build great things have a similar mentality, because they can get people to rally around what it takes in order to create the future that they see. And the future that they see is so much brighter with so many more competent people than what exists today.
Okay. I got 2 questions. I'll probably forget the second one. But what I want to know is, what is your earliest memory of like the scariest dream you've ever shared with somebody in terms of like making money or doing the thing?
I remember when I told my husband, this might not be my earliest, but it was one of like the most frustrating. And it's kind of funny sharing these types of things, because on one hand, my husband's the most supportive person on the face of the planet, but like, it's real that I've shared ideas with him that I felt like introverted on myself afterwards, because he wasn't like jumping up and down saying like, Natalie, you could do this. Like, it was just a little bit like of a brush off. And I would tell this, I'm sure he might hear this, or, I have no issue with him hearing me say this, but one of the most like was I wanted to create a Tom's equivalent, like where it was like buy one, get one, or buy one, give one, of the shoes for women in the workplace, where it would be a white button-up shirt. And if you bought one as a woman, you would then be able to give one to like a Dress for Success, or some like charitable group for women. And I remember telling him this in this airport, and he was so uninterested and really like thought it was the worst idea ever. And that was one of those moments where it was like, maybe I'm never going to be somebody, because maybe it's not a good idea. And I realized it was just, no, it wasn't that. It was just that it was a bad idea. And it's kind of okay to have bad ideas.
Totally. And maybe it is a great idea, just not for you. Maybe you're
So
not the
true.
person to execute on that, because someone executed on Tom's shoes.
Yep.
Well, I remember the first time that I came up with this idea for the Pink Skirt Project, which is a movement in the world of like female entrepreneurship. And I was like, I had to have it at this one venue. And the max capacity for this venue was 350 people, theater style. Not 35,000, but I will get there someday. And I walked in there, first time ever like considering this. Penny's the manager. I said, Penny, how many people can sit here? She's like, 350 people is the capacity. And I said, perfect. That's how many tickets we're going to sell. And I go home and I was like, turned to my husband. I was like, Dan, I'm going to sell out this event. And he's like, nobody does that. You should start with a smaller number. Most people go in the red on their first event. And I was like, perfect. I'm just going to prove you wrong. And we crushed it. We sold out.
Yeah.
We made more money than we thought we would make at an event. And it's kind of like, it was that aha, I told you so moment, but it was more proving to myself that I could do it. But you kind of need that like fire lit under your butt sometimes to be like, you weren't going to go for the shirt thing, but that probably spiraled into other ways of thinking about the possibility of your future.
So true.
So what did you do from that moment? You're like, okay, fine, I'm not doing the shirt business. Honey, we're doing something else. Is this when you got into Cardone Ventures?
Yeah, it really is. And it's interesting because I actually think this is a very non-unique experience to me. I think this is a shared experience across many women. Women just aren't really comfortable talking about it. And that is like, my husband has more business experience than I do. My husband has more financial experience than I do. And I don't think that's just because he and I have an age difference, which we do. That's very traditional in society, especially Western society. And so it's very easy to make two mistakes, I think, as women. And I watch women do this because I work with many family businesses. One mistake is women use, oftentimes, not to generalize, but women oftentimes do use this, well, because I'm your wife, we should go forward with this. And they use a card that isn't because they have any sort of statistic in that space as the reason to move forward with something. Well, you should support me because I'm your wife. I'm really thankful that I happen to have a husband who doesn't subscribe to that, because it would have ended in bad decisions. And I watch those TikTok videos of like these guys that are like, I can't wait to be so successful that my wife can have a cafe that loses $20,000 a month.
A month, yeah.
Like, I'm really glad that my husband never thought that was a good idea, because that's a waste of resources. Like, why would we want to set our significant other up to not have something that's actually successful? And it goes back to like that participation trophy. I've never wanted a participation trophy. So that's the first set of like negative decisions or potentially bad outcomes. But then the second is being told no, or being told that you don't know something, and then just entirely like caving in and not continuing to think that you can create something because of what it is a actual difference and discrepancy in experience and education. And it's honestly just because our society has changed so rapidly in the last handful of decades, where women are able to start having conversations, and we're now able to have credit cards and open up businesses and do all of these things that were not historically something that we had access to. So I am a believer that there is a systemic change that has happened. And because of that, these two alternatives are not great alternatives. You shouldn't just be told that you have a good idea because it's like cute and like you have a good idea. That also sets women back. But on the other side of that, just because somebody tells you that it's a bad idea doesn't mean that you have bad ideas. That just means that that idea was bad. And for me, we wouldn't have created Cardone Ventures if I wouldn't have thought, well, let's just look at how we could create an opportunity from a different angle. And it was a more successful business opportunity, I believe, than the first idea that was the bad idea. And, you know, I'm very thankful, again, that I have somebody in my life who it doesn't try to protect me from these things, but I will take a lot of responsibility for my own ability to stand up for myself and not be told I'm not smart enough or I don't have enough experience or I should just like sit in a little corner, because that's an easy out as well. And just as a woman trying to navigate between those two, I think is actually very difficult depending on the type of people that you do have in your life and the type of support that they give you or lack of support that they give you.
I love that. So Dan, he's like, let me see your P&L. He's like, you're not reporting to me, you're reporting to somebody else in the business. And it's like every Friday we have to submit our sales numbers and have we reached the targets or not. It's that simple. Like, that's the thing about business. It is so much more simple than people understand. They think it has to be this like medley of complication, and it doesn't. And he's like, so did you reach your targets? I'm like, no. Where did we go wrong? Well, this month I failed. Next month I won't. This is what we're going to do better next time. And it's like every time it's just an iteration. It's an iteration. What was the thing that went wrong, or what was the thing that succeeded? And he always holds me accountable. That's like, sometimes I'm afraid to even come to him with an idea. Because like for my podcast, this, for instance, I kept talking about it. And one day he's like, so what's the date? And I go, what do you mean, what's the date? He's like, well, when is this going live? And I'm like, oh, I actually have to do it now. Yeah, you have to do it. And that was over 400 episodes and 5 years ago. So I committed to it. There's part of this where you need that person in your life to challenge you, but the people that know you, that know your potential. And that's what makes a great leader too. So you hire the people because you see the potential, and they just need to be developed to also believe that in themselves. And it makes like the most magical experience, like walking into Martell Ventures here and just seeing these kids that are building like these AI platforms because someone believed in them. It's like such a cool spot to be in, the energy. And like talking about AI, you talk about AI, and I have like a really cool question about this to totally change the subject. Think about AI as like your first teammate. So this is like your first hire. If AI or a version of it were your day one hire, which role would it co-pilot? And what guardrails would you set it so it actually drives performance?
I would focus all my energy and effort, if I had only one hire and it was going to be AI, to be entirely on sales. Because when you are the only person in a business, the only thing that matters for you to become more effective at, more efficient with, is sales. I don't think you need somebody organizing your inbox. I don't think you need somebody helping you with calendaring. I think you need help with getting sales so that you're able to go do more of what is required to then hire the second role and the third role and the fourth role. So if AI was responsible for really helping me launch Natalie Ventures LLC and it was just me and AI, it would be not getting distracted with AI on research and, trying to make it do more than what I need it to do, which is I need help with driving revenue. Revenue is the lifeblood of the business. Revenue is required for the next hire and the next hire and the next hire. And so any and all sales automation through the lead generation process and the lead conversion process is what I would solely focus on. And I would honestly almost have to shut it off for everything else, because one of the funny things that I find with even my own use of AI, and I'm a pretty disciplined person, but it just kind of like catches you where you will, if I'm using ChatGPT for something and I'm researching something, I can just go through almost like a Instagram stalking spiral of like, it's the next thing and then it's the next thing. And now it's asking me if I want a report over here, but it's never ending because of course they want you to use the platform and they're trying to solve more problems. But all of a sudden you've spent 45 minutes looking at something that was supposed to take you 45 seconds, all because you feel like you're learning. And I think that's another way that a business owner can very easily waste their time, especially in the early days. So if you're not focused on using AI for revenue generation only, I would stop using it entirely until you did get that part of the business working in a consistent, repeatable process.
The distractions, those would be great guardrails to teach your AI to. Like, please don't suggest anything else because I'm always going to say yes because you always make it sound so amazing. So
that's
stop.
what I've trained all of mine. I do not let it ask me any other questions, and I will, kind of get a little irritated. I'll pop off on it a little bit, like stop doing this.
Fight with it?
Just a little. I try to be nice, but I set up all of the preferences and the different ways across all of the different platforms that you can change how it actually interacts with you. And I make sure to be very clear about what I'm wanting from the output.
Same. Love it. But I need to put this guardrail in place too, because I'm just like, oh yeah, absolutely. You can create this framework for me. 100%. Yes. Keep going. Before you know it, you have a novel and you're like,
right.
Where do I begin?
Right. And then you're more overwhelmed. When I was launching my first thing about 12 years ago, I remember my one task was to write a blog post every single day because I just wanted to start getting SEO and content. And I could spend 8 hours writing a blog, or I could spend an hour, and it would all depend on what level of research. And it's all of a sudden you're just doing these things that are so unnecessary to the one thing that when you are the only person working in a business that you need, which is revenue and driving revenue and focused on revenue. And all the other things are just completely wastes of time if you are not focused on how you take somebody, 100%. Get them interested, to convert, to cash collect revenue in your business.
It's almost like it should be mandatory that when you incorporate or register your business, you must pass a sales course. Like, doesn't the government want you to be successful because they want your tax money? So distractions, when I look at don't hate me on this. I don't like doing sales. And the reason why I don't like it is because I'm intimidated by it. I do it and I do okay with it. I have a team for this. Mm-hmm. But think about those smaller businesses. This is obviously the most important thing and necessary. I find they procrastinate on this. They think they need to have the perfect branding or the landing page or the social media accounts, everything just up and running. But they know this is the most important thing. So let's look at the world of we'll just say service-based business, like coaches, for example. How do they just start the process? They're a coach, they'll say, a business coach is a perfect example, and they're a good one. Mm-hmm. How do they just start the sales process?
Well, I would hit up my power base of people that I know who have businesses or people who are local to me. Like right now I'm in Arizona. The building that I'm in happens to have 45 businesses all around it. So if I didn't have any sales for my business, I would just go walk into every one of these businesses, be able to provide a piece of paper or some sort of testimonial or something physical that represents my business to get out of the digital landscape of, is the website perfect and is the font perfect and do I have enough social media proof to be able to give background? If you really need sales in a business and you're starting out, the best thing that you can do is show your face, show your commitment, show your resilience, and show your offer to the targeted businesses that you're looking to work with. And I would do that very simply through hitting up the power base that I have for, again, whatever those targeted businesses are, and showing my face. And that in and of itself differentiates you from 95% of people who are online and automating many of these tasks, but they don't have the success stories that are required to get people to trust them. So they're doing the step 3 at step 1. Step 1 is, how do you get success from your first 25 clients? Well, then you have to have 25 clients who are able to say, hey, Sarah helped me, or Bob helped me, or Sally helped me do XYZ thing. In order to find those people, I wouldn't actually use online at first unless you are able to message a bunch of people that you have a big power base online, but most people don't. What is existing for every single person in the United States, in Canada, and most other countries is real businesses with real challenges in the marketplace every single day. And you yourself showing up and winning that business, doing everything you can to service that business so that you can get a testimonial from them for the success that you were able to drive with them, is how I would get out of this trap of needing to have this perfect website and perfect social media presence. You don't need any of that stuff. A lot of people can fake that stuff, but what they can't fake is results that they've driven from clients who are happy and sharing testimonials. And then you would use those to make the quote unquote perfect page, which is just highlighting the success of people who've worked with you.
The FaceTime, I love it. There are some kids. So Dan organizes a Tuesday morning founders hike here in Kelowna, BC. And we meet at the base of the mountain at 6:20 a.m. on Tuesday mornings. He gets asked for his time all the time, as you can imagine. So he's like, if you really want to talk to me, meet me at the base of Knox Mountain in Kelowna, BC. He's had people fly in from all over the world with the chance of maybe having a 2-minute conversation. That's FaceTime. And that's commitment. When I see these people showing up, I'm like, that person has such conviction with their business and asking the appropriate questions for growth. One of those kids, he's from Europe somewhere, and he has a all-natural rodent repellent. And I was like, I know. I think he's like 16 or 17 years old. And he showed up. And he messaged me. And he's like, I wanted to give you guys a sample, and I didn't get a chance. Can I mail them to you? I'm like, absolutely. It's like, the anti-hustle era, I think, ruined business and the ruined business mindset for a lot of people. Because there's a lot of automations in this world. AI is one of them, and it's a beautiful thing. But many people think that means that they don't have to work anymore. And sales is, I know, the most important process that people avoid the most because they think they can hide behind their keyboard or hide behind their phone. It's like, the sponsors we got for our event were from the connections I made, relationships. And it's saying, hey, Michelle, here's my event. I think it'd be great on stage. Absolutely love to have you in front of my crowd. And I think you'd be a great sponsor. Absolutely, yes. Send over the invoice. Let's do it. It's like, if you don't ask, you won't get the yes or you won't get the no. But also, it's being in the room. So in the world of public relations where I came from, all of the media coverage most of the time came from the people that I had already met, either at an event or even like on Zoom calls. The FaceTime is like the most like palpable way, if that's even the right word to use, to actually get a sale. And like, you travel a lot. And would you say that some of those, like, the strongest relationships you had were from meeting these people in person?
I definitely would. I think that in a world that is so digital, it is a differentiator to be around people, to be able to communicate with people. And a lot of the promotion from a marketing and social media standpoint, I just realized, well, wait a second. Everybody is able to set up a camera these days and have nice lighting and be able to read off of a teleprompter and have you not even know that they're reading off a teleprompter to pretend. And so in a world where it's so easy to pretend, how do you just demonstrate that you are real? And it's so easy, even if you don't have an audience. The way that you demonstrate that you're real is you show up in person and people can actually see you, and you walk into their business and you're like, oh, I could do these 5 or 6 things in order to help you. And to really care and have a connection with somebody is how you start a business today. I wouldn't start a business, especially in the service space. If I'm a business coach, we do a lot in home services like roofing, HVAC, so that like you have to physically be talking to people in order to actually do and deliver the service. And it is such a differentiator in a space that just is I think over-indexed on how do I figure out the trick or the hack to set up this thing that doesn't have any sort of reflection of me. Because if it's a thing that it doesn't have any reflection of you, it's very easy to copy and it becomes very overwhelming to build. Whereas for us in our business, what can't be replicated is us in our business. Now, I'm a huge proponent of duplicating ourselves and having people that, allow our business to run without us. But so much of the magic of any great business is founders of the business and is the culture that they're able to create with their team members and with their clients. And that starts with client number one, that starts with team member number one, and it moves through, and you never actually scale unless you did it right to begin with, and you did it correctly with people to begin with, and people trusted you. So even if you can entirely automate the client acquisition process in a business, you can't automate the team member acquisition in the process, which means still that you are differentiating yourself based off of how you lead and how you set up structures in your business for meetings and agendas and where communication happens and what follow-up looks like and how you show up to an interview. Like, all of those things are skills that matter and are going to matter more as we move into more of a AI enabled world. It's not going to matter less.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So another question I have for you around hiring is hire before you're ready. What's the single hire that most multiplies a founder's confidence and capacity, not just ours? So this is like outside of AI, and let's just say outside of sales too. So what would be that hire?
I would say if we're not going to hire sales and it's not going to be AI, it would have to be marketing. It's front end revenue generation. So marketing and sales should work hand in hand. We call it schmarketing. Right? There's no marketing department that works without a competent sales department or conversion mechanism in a business. And so if it's not sales, somebody who is able to pick one channel for a business and go so deep in really understanding how the target customer wants to be communicated with, where that person is spending time, and either emails them, outbounds them, if it's Instagram that group is predominantly on, get so focused on being the best on Instagram before going into the YouTubes and the TikToks and the X's. So many content creators who are prolific content creators today do talk about this omnipresence across all of the different channels. And as a small business, I think that can be very confusing, because then they start to think that they have to optimize their lives for 12 different platforms before they can even get success in one. And ideally, it doesn't take very long for them to get success in one so that they can move to the second and move to the third. But you cannot be great at 12 things simultaneously. So figuring out the one marketing hire that is going to go deep in either email marketing, social media with it's either Instagram or it's TikTok or it's YouTube, depending on who your target customer is, to help generate leads so that you can sell those leads, because you need revenue in your business. And if you focus on any other operational roles or efficiency roles, you can make yourself more efficient as the business owner, but you're only making yourself more efficient to the extent that you're able to generate revenue. And if you're not even doing 200,000 of revenue yourself individually, optimizing you so that you can do 250 is not the best use of the business resources. Optimizing to be able to grab more leads so that the business can go from you generating 200,000 or 250,000 to being able to generate 750,000, that would be the next best hire to bring into that business to take the next step in revenue, and then be able to obviously hire more people.
Holding yourself accountable to growing your own business. We always have this idea that, and we'll come back to service-based business, we'll say coaching again, that do what you can with what you got to earn your first million before you have big investments in terms of COOs and CMOs. Do you think that sounds about right?
Absolutely. If you are not at least, we say 25 million in revenue to our clients, but depending on the type of business, if you're not at least generating $10 million in revenue, it's not a real C-suite. You can say that the person's a CMO or a CRO or a COO, but if you put that role on the open market and Nestle is hiring or Facebook is hiring, that person might be at a director level. Maybe it's a way for small business owners to attract talent, that the talent wants a bigger title. But I actually find that to be a weakness in talent. The best people that I work with do not care at all about what their title is. They couldn't, but it's not even a consideration. It's what is the opportunity to be able to make more money? What is the opportunity to make a bigger impact? How can I lead a larger team and be responsible for more things? So it's easy to put this flashy title out and you might get a lot of applicants. But if you're posting a COO that's making $150,000 a year, it's not a real COO. It's maybe a director of ops. maybe a senior director of ops, but it's not a COO. So it's a tactic for small business owners. And I don't think that it actually optimizes for what you're really looking for, which is great talent who don't care about their titles, but who really love the idea of helping you solve the problems that your business has at 5 million or at 10 million in order to get to 15 or 20.
I love that. And is this what you talk about in your book?
It is. It is. My first book, Teamwork, was like my baby. And I wrote it in, I think, 10 days. It was just everything that I wish somebody, yes, this is why I love Grant Cardone and the value of great partners in life. Grant always says in front of an audience, the goal is not to write a book. The goal is to finish a book. So how do you finish a book?
Dang, that makes a lot of sense.
I don't need to write a book. People can write a book for 5 freaking years. What good does that do? No, finish a book. That's the goal. And so he told me that he wrote a book once in like a week or like a weekend. I was like, I'm just going to like knock this out. I gave myself 2 weeks to finish the book, not write the book. But it's everything that I wish I would have been given when I was 22 years old leading this team, instead of making so many mistakes along the way. Just how do you onboard people? How do you hire them? How do you know what interview questions to ask? What metrics do you set them up with? And just the overarching structure around teams inside a business.
Man, I need to read that. My first job at 17, I started at a restaurant because my mom told me to get a job, and I thought entrepreneurs make a lot of money and they don't work a lot. So why not? And then I go into the food business. Anyway, did it for 4 years, seasonal, and never had a debt in my life. So I learned something. But how funny was it that I was 17 years old, hiring my mom's friends? I had no clue what I was doing. I had to fire people that came to work stoned. I had no clue what I was doing. I could have used your book back then. I just doing what I can with what I got. Those were some diabolical times, biggest lessons. And probably like a little fuzzy in memory because it was traumatizing, but I learned so much. And you have a second book, right?
I do. The first book was really around people, and the second book was more around operations. Once you've learned the skills of hiring people, like in a small business, what are the things that somebody needs to have in order to duplicate not just the owner, but the roles inside the business, and how do you set up quarterly team meetings and all the unsexy stuff that nobody tells you about in a business, but is like required at big company level. Fortune 500, Fortune 50 companies have a very clear pathway that they use to run their operations. Just nobody tells small business owners how to do that and where to look to find those resources.
And what's that one called?
That one's called Start the Work. I was going to get really cute. My last name used to be Workman. So I was going to do this whole series of books with the word work in them. And then I got married. So the whole cute thing went away very quickly.
It can still be cute because, I mean, you got Teamwork and Start the Work. You can still do it. You can make it work.
I like it. Maybe that's the next one. Make it work.
Make it work. Oh, yes. Do it. Make it work. Practical books, and I'm going to link them in the show notes because I know they're sitting on our desk at home and I meant to grab them and read them. But of course I went down the Instagram rabbit hole just looking at all of your content. And one thing to know about Natalie, she wears black.
I do.
Which is such a smart color to travel with. Oh,
you wouldn't know that I wear black today because I happened to put on a white shirt. But my rule is at least 70% of the outfit has to have black in it. Like the majority of the outfit. So, the bag, pants, and shoes have black today.
That's just so smart. I just have a mix. I'm attracted to like textures and colors. It does make packing a lot harder though. And my husband wears the same thing. It's the Dan Martell tuxedo. Every day, same thing. People ask me, how many of those t-shirts does he have? I'm like, 50?
Lots.
He doesn't even have to wash them. He just takes a new one out of the package and put it on. Okay, so many questions. And okay, this one is about abundance and leadership. We already talked about this. But my last big question for you is when money feels tight, and we've all experienced this as founders, how can a small business owner or founder still lead with abundance even when things look pretty bad?
I am such a believer in the possibility of tomorrow. So whether I have $3,000 in my bank account or $300,000 in my bank account or millions in my bank account, tomorrow is what is so exciting about life. There's nothing exciting about the past. And so whatever bad decisions or challenging situations that you've found yourself that got you to this moment where you feel overwhelmed, overworked, uncertain, it doesn't take long to rebuild. And you can just fill yourself with stories of people who in such a short period of time were able to take the lessons and flip it. But those stories should just be this reminder that the worst thing and the only bad thing that you could choose to do is to give up and to quit in this moment. And all of the fun in the game of life and playing this interesting role of a business owner and generating revenue, all the fun is in the future and what you can concoct and what you can build. So, I still try to have a mentality today of like, I'm starting with zero. Like, what does it look like for me to continue to work at the levels that I've worked up until this point and to do this for a very long time? Well, what's required is like not pretending like I've made it, not pretending like we have lots of money. Yeah. It's the premise of how do you live into the future and create this different picture of the future, because regardless if you have a lot of success and a lot of money or you have very little success, the only common denominator is that we all have to take another step tomorrow in order to get to where we're trying to go. And we all have the same fixed amount of time. So if I didn't have any money right now, and for business owners that don't have any money right now, it is all about, and the magic is in the create of what's possible and how you can generate revenue and how scrappy you can get and the great story that you're going to be able to have to share with people in the future because of this heroic decision that you made to not give up, to not quit, to not be overwhelmed by your current circumstances, and just be like, okay, I made some bad choices. What am I going to do today in order to fix this so that tomorrow is more in alignment with what I actually want my life to look like?
Ooh, it's like not taking your foot off the gas no matter what, right?
All
Like,
gas,
hey,
no brakes.
oh, well, I like the brakes. I drive with kids in the car. My husband, full send. But got me thinking, like, we got 50% to our sales targets in the first couple of days of September. And it's only two of us doing sales right now on the team. And I felt that energy of like taking the foot off the gas. Because we're like, oh, we're going to make it. You know what? We're going to double. Or, wow, this is such a great reminder to always just be going full send. Come on, let's go. If the goal is 5, why not make it 10 or 20? Because you got to put in the effort anyway. So why not just keep going? Oh, okay. Such a great reminder. So one last question for you. When I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that for you?
To be a wild woman is to be entirely unapologetic about the way that you make decisions and the confidence that you have in yourself, to where people can trust you in the vision that you have for your life and that you are actually going to make it happen. And it might not be what other people want, and it might not be with other people cheering you on and supporting you, but it is with a lot of internal certainty that only you can create and only you can have for yourself, that gives you this presence of people are thinking that you maybe are a little wild, but you actually know that it's not coming from a place of being wild and crazy and dramatic. It's from such a high level of trust and confidence in yourself and the life that you want and your unrelenting actions that you take every single day in order to get there.
Oh, just the reminder we all needed. I love it. So, Natalie, if people want to go online to find you, where can they go?
The best place would be Instagram at Natalie Dawson. I'm pretty active inside my own DMs. I like my DMs. I have fun in there, and I'm able to build real connections with people.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.